Good morning. Gonna wait for Facebook to start up. For some reason it's thinking. Oops. Go this way. Good morning, Facebook. Good morning, YouTube. Today we're going to talk about mindfulness, specifically in the context of being holy. But I want to begin with a general question. And that is, let's assume you're sitting on your couch watching a movie, a game, or something like that, munching on a bag of chips. Let's make it a little better. You're munching on a bag of nuts. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is it good or bad to sit on your couch watching a game and munching or snacking on peanuts, unroasted, unsalted? Anyone care to answer? YouTube, Facebook, is it a good thing or a bad thing? And the reason why I ask this is because in life, very often, we make this distinction. This is good or this is bad, or this is neutral. It goes into one of three buckets. It's a beneficial thing. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Jay. Neither bad nor good. Okay, it's neutral. So we have three buckets. We have good things that are positive, and if you do them, it's impacts something in a good way. And then there's negative things. By doing that, you're hurting somebody else, you're hurting yourself, you're damaging a situation, you're creating a rift or a fight or something like that. And then you have stuff which don't matter. It literally makes no difference. It's neither bad nor good. Or Jay says indifferent, depending on how on a situation. Okay, correct. There are cases where it could be bad or it could be good. They tell the joke of a police officer that stops two individuals in a dark alley, and he asks the first one, "What are you doing here?" He says, "Nothing." So he turns to the second one. He says, "What are you doing here?" He says, "Oh, I'm helping him." Certain things in life are good, certain things are bad, and certain things are neutral. And I say this because in today's parsha, there's a mitzvah. It's a very strange mitzvah if you think about it. It's a command where Hashem tells the Jewish people to be holy. Now, the unique thing about this mitzvah, this command, is that it's only one of two other places in the entire Torah where Hashem commands Moshe, gather all the Jewish people. Usually, when Hashem tells Moshe to give over something to us, to keep kosher, to do any type of mitzvah that we have to do, whether it was a mitzvah which is eternal, or it's a mitzvah, every mitzvah has some eternal component, but certain things that were relevant to that time in the desert, like gather together, or listen to the giving of the Torah, things like that. In general, Moshe was telling us stuff in a manner where Hashem says, gather the Jews, or tell Aaron and tell the Jews. But you don't find, or you find only in one other place where Hashem tells Moshe, get all the Jewish people together, gather everyone and tell them, which obviously underscores the importance of whatever it is he's about to say, that he wants everyone to be there. It's not just, we'll tell our friends when we get home or whatever, excuse me. Concept here is that very often you have something really important to say to your family or at work. You'll gather everyone together and you want everyone here before you say it. You want them to hear it from you, right? Or your boss wants everyone in the office to hear it from them to bring out the importance, doesn't want it to get lost in translation and so on. So there is a mitzvah in this parsha where Hashem does that, and it's rare. He wants everyone there. What's this mitzvah that he says? He says, be holy. The Kedoshim Tihu, you should be holy, which is a mitzvah. What does it mean, holy? That don't do unholy things. Does it mean to do more mitzvahs? How do you quantify? How do you really explain or define what does it mean? I want to fulfill this mitzvah. I want to be holy. What does it mean, be holy? And as you can imagine, there are many, many different commentaries that discuss this concept and this mitzvah at great length. I want to share a few of them. And of course, understand our theme today, that's mindfulness, of how a person is able to live a life of focus, of mindfulness in everything that we're doing. But first, let's explore Rashi. Rashi, the great commentator on the Chumash, he lived in the year 1040 through 1105, and obviously the classic commentator on Chumash, Bible, on prophets, on the scriptures, as well as on Talmud, most of Talmud. And he tells us that Kedoshim, be holy, means don't be involved in promiscuous behavior, certain relationships, which would be considered immoral. Okay? And he proves his point or backs up his point with a parallel other places where it says holy in Torah. Holy refers to, profane in Torah, it refers to inappropriate relationships, incestual relationships, other types of things where there's a family show for now, but this concept is that being holy means that in the realm of relationships, I'm using that term loosely, relations would be a little bit closer to what I'm trying to say, is stuff will keep you holy. So refraining from certain activities, let's just say with certain people in certain times, where it's not supposed to be, that is considered to be holy. And Torah is saying Hashem wants all the Jewish people to understand this. It's perhaps not an easy mitzvah to demand. It's perhaps coming from Egypt, which Egypt was a very immoral place, anything goes attitude. And Hashem comes and says, guys, I want you to be holy. I want this to be different. I want you to have a certain standard when it comes to relations in a literal sense. That's Rashi. Maimonides, who lived in the 12th century, the 1194 through 1270, that would make it the 13th century, he says that it's not about what's not allowed. Okay, Torah allows relations, okay, husband and wife, etc. Torah allows eating food, eating good food, but you need to have a certain emphasis, a certain focus. Why am I doing this? Am I doing it for fun? Or am I doing it because there's some kind of benefit in the relationship, some kind of benefit in the experience? I want to eat something because it tastes good, because I want to enjoy it. I want to have some type of productive experience when I do it. So what Maimonides is telling us is food, there's nothing wrong with food. It's kosher, eat it, right? Relations with a person's spouse in the right context, nothing wrong. The contrary, it's a mitzvah. But a person should focus. What is it that they're doing? And why are they doing it? And in one example of food, not to become a glutinous person that's just interested in enjoying themselves, just interested in pleasure, just interested in fun. Holy would mean that when I eat, there's a reason. And therefore, there's a thought of what I'm eating, how much I'm eating, and so on and so forth. And when it comes to relations, a person doesn't get selfish about it. They focus on the other, etc. Again, I don't want to get into details right now. Maybe we could have a separate class, password protected, for this topic. Let me know if you want to join. But the concept here is that Maimonides says being holy means refraining from activities that don't have a purpose behind them. Okay? And this is what Maimonides says. Now, I'm sorry, did I say Maimonides? I did. Nachmanides, who was in 1194 to 1270. Maimonides was earlier than that. But what he's expecting from us, and what he's demanding from us, is have a higher sense of living. When you do things, don't just do it for fun. The Rabbeinu Bechayai, which is another commentator, he was lived in Spain in 1265 through 1340. His commentary is a lot of philosophy and I don't want to call it Kabbalah, but let's just say esoteric things of the Torah, midrashic and philosophical and so on. You could say that it's Kabbalistic. He says like this: in life, people have certain tendencies, urges, desires. These are things that you really, really want. And you have to work with yourself and discipline yourself to try to subdue those temptations. It's not about what's right and what's wrong per se in this context. It's more of, I have a soft spot for, you fill in the blank, steak, okay? You have a soft spot for chocolate chip cookies. So your urge, your temptation has to be subdued. You have to refine yourself. You need to to get better and not being pulled in a certain direction just because I have this weakness, I have this temptation, I must have it. Be more in control of what's going on. Try not to be such a pleasure-seeking, materialistic, experience-driven person. So we have here so far three explanations of this mitzvah, be holy. Rashi says, stay away from promiscuous behavior. Okay, your relations have to be holy and appropriate. For the right reasons with the right person. Nachmanides says, when you do things, have purpose behind them. Okay, so you want to eat, fine, and all the other activities, but do it for a reason. Don't just do it for fun. Do it for a productive purpose. And Rabbeinu Bechaya says, holy means work on yourself that your temptations, even if they're kosher temptations, they're appropriate. Just work on them that you have a much better handle on what it is. I'm not going to eat this because I love it. I'm going to eat it because it's good for me. I'm going to decide next week I'm going to have a treat. A person should discipline themselves and subdue those in Hebrew it's called taivas, those strong urges, the strong desires that they have. Another commentator, Rabbi Eliezer ben Moshe Azikri says that we're commanded to stay away, similar to Rabbeinu Bechaya, we're commanded to stay away from the things that are have excessive pleasure. So what you need, you're allowed. Is there anything wrong to enjoy? No problem. But don't get too excessive in those areas because it leads to other issues. Again, it's the same concept of when you do things, do them for a productive reason. Now, what ends up happening here is there's good and there's bad, and this neutral we're having a problem with. Why am I doing it? Is neutral okay? Etc. There was a great chassid, Mordechai Horodoker, and this chassid was a disciple of the first Rebbe of Chabad, Alter Rebbe, the author of the Tanya, and he shares that one of the first teachings that he heard from his teacher was whatever is prohibited is prohibited. It's absolute. There's no way around that. Whatever you're allowed to do, maybe you could do without. In spiritual development and trying to grow, the question was, do I need this? Is this important or not? Or as the Chinuch, which was a fascinating book, we don't know who the author was of this book, but when he was raising his family somewhere in Europe, every Shabbos, the kids were bored, or he didn't want them to spend too much time doing nothing. You can't do many of the activities they would do on a regular day. So he would take the Parsha of the week and give reasons for every mitzvah. It's a beautiful, beautiful work. So we don't have reasons for mitzvahs because we do it because God said so. But he would explain different rationale, which could be another reason of why we do certain mitzvahs, like about kosher and even the mitzvahs which don't make so much sense to us logically. He explained it. And he talks over there, be holy, he says, same idea. What you do, be mindful that I'm doing this for a purpose. I'm not going to have this experience right now of food, which is going to be really, really delicious, and not think why I'm doing it. And when you think why you're doing it, it helps you. There's a person who came to the Rebbe, many people that asked about weight. People would come to the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, from all walks of life. Jews, non-Jews, lay leaders, politicians, doctors, kids, everybody. And seeking spiritual advice, guidance, and also practical advice, medical advice, other things, business. So somebody came to the Rebbe and he said he has a weight problem. He doesn't know what to do. He tried this diet and that diet. It may sound familiar to some of us. I tried this, I tried that. It's not working. And the Rebbe told him, and I'll preface that not every answer that Rebbe gives every individual applies to everybody. The Rebbe told him as follows. Before you eat, ask yourself, why am I eating? What's the reason for this? And when you'll do that, you'll think more about how much you're eating, what type of foods you're eating, when you're eating, etc. And the gist of what the Rebbe was telling him is, think why you're eating, and then you're in control. Doesn't mean that it's so easy, but you're going to sit down for lunch, and you ask yourself, well, why am I doing this? 1 second, I'm doing this because I want to have energy. I'm doing this because I want to be productive. I'm doing this because I want to be healthy. And all of a sudden you look at your portion and you say, maybe I could add a little bit more of this other food group there. Maybe I could reduce a little bit of the quantity of what I'm about to consume. And you're not restricting anything per se. You're not limiting anything per se. You're just mindful of, why am I eating this? And therefore, let me do more that will lead to that outcome. But the question here is, what's so bad about neutral? Back to our original opening question. I'm on the couch watching a game. I'm not into games, but you're watching a game and eating nuts. Okay? It's not good or bad. No one needs you at that particular moment to help with something in the house. Your significant other is not asking you to do something. You finished your responsibilities for the day. You're just doing nothing. Is it good or is it bad? And it seems from here that it's bad, because if you don't have a purpose why you're doing it, it sounds to be negative. And I want to explain why. Why do we see in Hasidic thought, in many works of Jewish philosophy, why do we see something which is neither good nor bad as leaning to the bad side? And the answer in one word is purpose. Everything in this world is here for a reason. Every person was created for a reason. Every object that we have here has its divine reason why it exists. Nothing is here by coincidence. Nothing is here just because. Not people, not animals, not inanimate objects, no plants or anything. Nothing is here for no reason. There's a beautiful story about the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, who was walking with his then young son, who would later become the sixth Rebbe. And as they're walking, he writes this in his memoirs. He yanked a leaf off one of the trees that they were passing, just haphazardly pulled it off. And his father told him that that's not the right thing to do. It's wrong, because that leaf has to be there for whatever reason, and you're messing with it. You're just pulling it off. You're expressing that it's insignificant, that leaf, and it doesn't matter. It's not alive anymore. It's dead. Gone. You pulled it off. And we have to see that every single thing in this world has a reason, and it serves a certain purpose. And just let's talk about people. The moment we realize that everyone here matters in some way, you may not understand it. You may think that it's damaging. You may think that it's a waste. He or she is why. But if you reflect on it for a moment, that everything that's here has a reason why it's here, it helps us. It helps us to respect other people. It helps us to appreciate other people. It helps us to get along better with other people. But everything in this world has a purpose. And even experiences, the ability that we have to do certain activities, they also have a reason. And the question is that reason a good reason, or is it a bad reason? And I want to take you on a Kabbalistic journey, exploring a concept which will help all of us in many, many areas in life, called klipa. Klipa, K-L-I-P-A. Klipa is a Kabbalistic term, which literally translates as shell, the peel, okay, the husk of something. And many, many things in life have a shell. They have a husk. It covers over it, and whatever's inside is not really apparent. So if you look at the husk, let's take a peanut. You look at the husk of a peanut. Is this husk, is this item that you're holding good or bad? Now the shell is bad. Okay, you don't want to eat that. The nut that's inside of that shell is good. The problem is you don't see the nut inside the shell. The klipa, the shell, is covering that fruit, and therefore, or legume, and therefore you can't get to it. Now, if you're going to be able to recognize that that peel, that shell has a peanut inside, you're going to crack the peanut, you're going to take out the nut, throw away the bad, use the good, and now you benefited from it. In the world, everything is made up, anything that's not holy is made up of klipa, of this shell. Okay, coffee. I keep using this example because it's one of my weaknesses. Coffee. You have coffee. Is coffee good or bad? Well, Kabbalah says coffee is a shell. In the shell, there is something, an experience. I don't know if it's the caffeine, if it's the temperature of the water, if it's the taste, whatever it is. There's something in here. Now, I could use it for bad. It's a shell. I could say this is just a shell and that's it. Or I could understand that if I'm going to drink this in the morning and I'm going to use it in the right context, I'll actually benefit from it. Coffee is a very good thing, but it's a shell. And if I'm going to drink it at night, if you have a problem with caffeine at night, at 11:30, when I really should be sleeping because I have to get up at 6, then it's a bad thing. So it's defined by a term called klipa, shell. A shell is either good, it contains in it something good or something bad. And the difference is can I ever extract the positive that's in there? Okay. The experience of taking $20 out of someone else's pocket when they don't realize, pickpocketing, if you're not social distancing, and you want to get money out of someone else's pocket, that is a klipa, okay? Because it covers over, there's nothing good here. Now, I could get the money out, but that's a bad activity. It's wrong. That's a klipa, which is completely bad. And what I'm introducing here is two different types of klippas that exist. There's one type of klippa, it's a shell that covers over peanuts, it covers over bananas, it covers over things that inside of those, they're good stuff. But then there's a shell that covers over poison ivy. I don't know if poison ivy has a shell, but it's something which covers over something which is bad for you. And I could say that I'm going to do that activity or eat that food. I'm going to get rid of the shell and extract the nut. It's going to be bad for me. It's bad all along. Okay. So what Kabbalah tells us is you have two realities in things that are neutral. They're all called klipa. One category of klipa is a extractable klipa. And you could bring out the good from that klipa and use it for your benefit. The other type of klipa is a bad klipa. There's nothing good in it, and you could never get something good out of it. Okay? So stealing, for example, the activity of going and taking something out of someone else's pocket that's not yours is stealing. Now, I could take something out of someone else's pocket with permission, and it won't be stealing. But if the activity is stealing, then it's a klipa which is inextractable. You cannot pull anything good out of that thing. And therefore, it's bad. Let's go to neutrality in life. I'm on my couch and I want to watch a game and eat nuts. Okay, I chose nuts because instead of chips or whatever else, it's a little bit easier for this example. Is that a positive activity or not? It can be a very positive activity because you just had an extremely stressful day. You want to unwind a little bit. You're going to be a much better spouse, parent, child, friend, coworker, whatever. Maybe all of those things, if you will relax a little bit. So the experience of sitting back and removing your mind from all the things that are bothering you and enjoying a little snack, it happens to be healthy as well, but even if it wasn't, could be a very positive thing. It could be a holy activity because in your mind, you're doing it for the right reason. Now you may decide that you want to watch something that's wholesome while you're at it because you may as well. You may decide you want to do something doesn't take too much focus. You may decide what you're going to snack on because you don't want to feel bad after. So you're doing something at that moment and you're thinking about why you're doing it. There's a reason why you're sitting on that couch at that particular time doing that activity, and it helps you. So all of a sudden, what you did was a holy experience. You did a mitzvah. How is that a mitzvah? I was sitting on my couch eating. That is a mitzvah. The very same activity could be a terrible thing, right? Somebody really needs you at that moment to do something. You're ignoring them. You're completely consumed by that activity that you want to do, that fun, that temptation, that urge that you have, and you're doing it on the expense of someone else or other responsibilities that you have. And the question, if it's good or bad, is really up to you. It depends what's going on in your mind, in your circumstances, why you're doing that. And the same applies to everything in the world which is not prohibited according to Jewish law. If it's not prohibited, it could be a great activity and it could be a terrible sin, depending why you're doing it. Let's look at grapes versus walnuts. They both have a shell, they both have a husk, right? But the grape, you could see straight through it how it's good for you. There's something inside it that's positive. The walnut, right, has a shell. You don't know what's inside, but you don't see it inside. And you have to do something in your life to reveal that. So you're sitting down for a meal, and you understand that a meal could be an extremely positive experience. You could sit with your family or with your friends, and you could create a certain bond. You can get a little bit closer with each other. You could understand each other. You could spend quality time. It could be an extremely loving experience and a very positive thing. And when you do that, the taste of the food, while you enjoy it and you want that to enhance the experience, if it's not so good, you're not going to get angry because then you're missing the whole point. You're trying to bring people together. You're trying to have a pleasant experience. So your meal could be a beautiful, beautiful experience. But if you say, no, I just want to have a good time. I enjoy a certain food at certain times, and then you're annoyed when it's late. You're upset if something doesn't work out exactly the way you want. You're frustrated. Two people eating the very same food and having two different realities. One is, frankly, a mitzvah because it's productive, and one is a sin. In Kabbalah, it's called klipas noiga, which is the translucent, the shining klipa, because it can be used for something good. And then there is the klipa, shalish klipas hatmeis, the completely impure klipa. And that would be those activities which are bad or forbidden. And those activities, not unlike food where you could say, I want to use it for a good purpose, I want to relax, I want to bond, I want to connect, right? You can't use those activities for a good thing. You can't say that shooting people helps me, it calms my nerves, right? So if somebody says such a thing, you're going to say, well, they have a good intention. No. It's the type of activity, and I used a very extreme example, but it's the type of activity which you can't elevate. You can't bring out the good that's in that klipa. We believe that every single thing in this world is godly. There's a spark in there. There's a spiritual holiness. But most of those things are concealed. They're covered. You can't get to it. Now, some of them, the shell is translucent. It's shining. You could penetrate that shell and get out the good, get out the godliness, which is the positivity and the productivity that's involved. Many of them, unfortunately, are not. So there is bad created in this world. It does exist. And our job is to stay away from it and make sure that no one gets hurt by it. But on the surface, you're going to see one nut with a shell that inside may be poison, and the other nut with a shell that inside may be good. And you know, that shell should remain a shell. I'm not using that. I can never elevate it. That one is a usable type of activity. I'll give you an example. There's a story that the Talmud relates. There was a great sage. He was sitting together with his students. I believe it was Rabbah. And they were learning. He was teaching some complex issue in the Mishnah, Jewish law. And there was a question, trying to understand it. And he could not give the explanation. He didn't explain it. They stopped for lunch. He comes back after lunch, and he has the explanation. He's answering them. It all works. And they asked him, what happened? It's not like he's consulted with anybody, or what happened before lunch? You didn't have the answer. Now you have the answer. And he explained. I went home for lunch. You know what I ate? I had fat meat, let's call it a juicy steak, and good wine, aged wine. That was my lunch, he said. And somehow, after that, my mind was a little bit more open, and I had a better sense of clarity. And I was able to come to the understanding of our difficulty that we had this morning. So here's a sage, which is sitting down for lunch on a regular day, and he's eating steak and wine. And someone may look at him and say, what kind of drunkard is this? What kind of behavior? Like, what, really? This is your typical lunch? And you're drinking alcohol in the middle of the day and you're going to teach or whatever else? But in his world, what he was doing was very different. He was sitting down for lunch and having good food because it's going to help him, and it did. And that's our challenge in this world. Our challenge is that we should be mindful of everything that we do. It should be for the correct reason. I'm doing this because I want to accomplish something positive. So anything that you're going to do is helping you or hindering you on your journey. You're on a journey to become a little bit more spiritual, to become a little bit more in touch with yourself, to become a little bit more potentialized. I know it's not a real word, but realizing your potential. And what's helping you do that is all of these experiences, activities, objects that you're going to encounter along your way. And you're either going to use them in a way that help you or they pull you down. In Hebrew, the word for prohibited or forbidden is asur. Asur. Something is asur, that means it's prohibited. Mutar means permitted, allowed. The definition of asur means tied down. It's tied in a manner that you could not bring out, you cannot pull out or elevate the godly spark, the holiness that's in there. Everything has a godly spark. But this activity is tied down. This food, we're going to use a pig, for example, that is prohibited according to Jewish law, it's unkosher. I could take that pig and slaughter it and salt it the proper way to get rid of blood. I can make blessings. I could put it on my Seder plate, God forbid. It will never become holy. It will never become kosher. This is created for a reason. It has a purpose. We're not saying that it's bad, but for consumption, this is prohibited for a Jew. Okay? And it has a godly spark, but the godly spark is tied down. It's not, you can't pull it out through eating. You can't pull it out and elevate it. Take the very same activity that I described and do it with a cow, an ox, a chicken, whatever, something kosher, then all of a sudden it does become holy. You did pull out that spark. So in Hebrew, anything that says prohibited or forbidden, it means tied down. You can't access these potential godliness, the holy spark of spirituality that's there. And anything that's mutar, which is allowed, means it's untied, means not a mitzvah per se, but you have the ability to pull it out. Okay? Shabbos is a mitzvah to eat and to enjoy yourself through food. Commandment. Okay? Enjoy the Shabbos. Now, you could enjoy Shabbos through food, and it's a mitzvah. During the week, the very same food could be positive, could be negative. It's neutral. It depends on the examples that I gave of why you're doing it, with who you're doing it, when you're doing it, but most importantly is what's going on in your mind. Why are you doing this? Now, when you go through this exercise, or you behave in this way, and you try to see all of your activities from that angle, then your life is driven and it's full of purpose. I'm seeing God, in everything that I'm doing. All of a sudden, I'm serving Him not just when I pray, not just when I learn, not just when I'm doing a mitzvah like lighting Shabbos candles or putting on tefillin. I'm serving God when I eat, when I sleep, when a person is in relations. Every single thing that they're doing, as Maimonides says, they are serving God. Why? Because this activity has a purpose. You're going for a walk, you're going for a workout, you're doing this because it's good for you, because it's going to help you, because it's positive. And that's the key, really, the goal that we should have in our lives. To try to find a sense of purpose in everything that you're doing, and you could enjoy yourself. You should enjoy yourself. A person goes on vacation, right? Some of the biggest fights between husbands and wives happen on vacation. Some of the biggest marital problems are a result of that. Okay? Why? You don't have the stress of life. You don't have the typical day in, day out stuff that you're usually dealing with. Why should you have more stress now than on a regular day? Excuse me. In regular contexts, you shouldn't, because usually everyone's let's just say running, rushing, stressed out, and it's difficult and so on. But if you're on vacation, well, why are things tough? Anyone care to answer? Excuse me. Why are things tough when you're on vacation? And the answer, why sometimes it is because you're focused on experiencing something. Okay? You want something. And that something you may not be getting it the way you want. You may not be being able to do the activities that you want to do, when you want to do them, how you want to do them, because there's another person here. And if you came on vacation and you dreamed of this and you awaited this and you were hoping to do A, B, and C and it's not working out, or there's some kind of glitch in the way, you're frustrated, you're annoyed. Okay? You're also spending a lot more time together in different contexts, and maybe not used to it, or maybe there's insecurities that are coming out, whatever it may be. But if you went on vacation, you said, you know, it would be great to change scenery, to get out of the day to day, to go spend some time together. We'll find activities to do. We'll plan something nice. We're going to create some memories. And it's going to help in our relationship. It's going to help him when I come back, and so on and so forth. Now, when he or she are on vacation and it's not going so well, it's not the activities they wanted didn't work out. The park was closed, the show was canceled, whatever it was. They're not angry because they know the goal here is what? Good memories, quality time, change of scenery, right? Freshen up. So now all of these things, which are at the forefront, help us stay in check. It's just another example of when you have mindfulness on purpose, you're realizing your potential, and your experiences are much better, and both in a relationship sense and in feeling about yourself, etc. I want to take this a little bit further and talk about not just ourselves, but the world as a whole. When we are living in this world, we have obviously a goal with ourselves to grow, to potentially maximize our potential. But there's also a purpose, and that is to make the world a better place. It's really the ultimate reason why the world was created, was to have all these klipa, all these shells around, and we need to reveal the fruit, we need to reveal the godly spark that's in these shells. And when we do that every day, with every experience, the best that we can, we make the world a better place. The whole world becomes greater, becomes more refined. That spark gets revealed, that spirituality shines. And the more spirituality shines in this world, the more goodness that's done, the more kindness that's achieved, the world becomes refined, the world becomes maximized. And then Mashiach comes. Mashiach is an era. It's obviously a person. Jewish Mashiach is a human being that will come. He's from the tribe of David, from the dynasty of King David. He's going to build a temple and usher in an era of peace and no hunger and no suffering and no illness, and only positivity. But this happens when the world realizes its potential. It achieves a situation of holiness in the world in a way that the godly sparks are revealed. So I want to wish you all a good Shabbos. On Shabbos, it's much easier to be mindful, because when you do something, many of the things that you do, as is our mitzvah, you're eating, it's a mitzvah. If you enjoy yourself, you don't have to realize that the enjoyment of the food is going to lead you to certain things, etc. But have a good Shabbos, enjoy it, be mindful, and good luck on your journey of seeing and realizing every experience as a positive, as a help, as something which is leading you on your journey to get closer, more in touch with yourself, and deeper connected with Hashem. Good night of Shabbos. I look forward to seeing you next week.